So we're going to continue looking at wealth and environmental impact discrepancies that exist. Again, typically the wealthier a country is, the more environmental damage it does. But we do get that really nice curve where as wealth increases, those countries can then start focusing on fixing those problems. So in general, most of Western Europe, I'm going to go back to that graph so we can look at it. Most of Western Europe, United States is down here now, where 100 years ago we were causing lots of damage. We're starting to fix a lot of those problems now. Now we are still degrading the environment. We are living for the most part unsustainably, but we're doing better. We look at countries like China and India going through these huge population booms, just really developing now and causing lots and lots of environmental degradation. And so we see in things like the Paris climate talks now, people will always bring up India and China and say, well, they're not reducing their impact. They're not doing this. And there are a couple of ways you can look at it. You can look at it that way and say, yeah, that's true. They should also be reducing the impact that they're having. The other lens that you can look at it in is that the Western world has already gone through that phase. They already had their chance and they degraded without any kind of regulation. So does that mean that these other countries shouldn't be able to do that? Or should they be able to do some of that degradation so that they can eventually get to this point as well? Ideally, they wouldn't be doing any degradation at all. And we will talk about throughout the semester ways in which we have things like technology sharing, where there's a reason why we get to this lower degradation. And for the most part, that's technology. So can we share that with these other countries so that they don't have to get to the peak point of that curve? Okay. We look at GDP density. These really dark red areas are our areas where we have the most money. This is where most of the wealth exists globally. Okay. And so we look at the impact that these nations have, and we see that these wealthier nations tend to have larger personal impact per person, as you see in that bottom right graph. United States, Belgium being 8.0, much higher than India, which is only $3,000 per person, personal impact 0.9. Okay, so if you're looking per person, country like the United States, each person is having an impact 8 times that of India, but there are 5 or 6 times as many people in India, so it seems as though they're having a much larger environmental impact. We look at environmental inequality, and so this figure here, we get air pollution inequality throughout the world, looking at concentrations of particulate matter greater than 2.5 microns. So green to red. So the darker the red, the larger the issue is with this particulate matter, the more of it that there is. Okay. And then we look at population size by the size of the circles. Okay. And so we see in the United States, pretty good, not a lot of bad air quality because of this wealth that exists. We look at these poor areas of Africa, air quality is terrible, right? Even with low populations. But we get into the Middle East, we start getting into Asia, we see a lot of this dark red, where our poorest areas of the world have the worst air quality. Okay? And this is a common thing with things like water quality as well. Okay. Again, air quality versus the GDP per capita across the world. So our purple, Africa, all down here in this range, really high particulate matter concentrations. We get our Western Europe, others. Look at this red, all down here, GDP really high, air quality really good. We get Asia Pacific. This is interesting. I wonder what country this is that has such terrible air quality, but really high per capita GDP. But we get a couple of those outliers in Asia, these areas that are likely growing very fast, lots of money coming in, but no way to deal with the pollution that's being caused. We have this IPAT equation. Basically, what we look at here is the impact that an area has. And so we look at the population. So is the population growing, decreasing? How many people are there, right? Because humans are the ones making the impact. So these factors about the population are going to impact the environment. We've got affluence. So consumption per person. So we can look in this case, are they doing good things for the environment? Is it sustainable? Is it not? Are they using resources faster than can be renewed? And then we look at this per capita because we're already multiplying by the population. And then we look at the impact per unit of consumption. So what issues is it producing? Is it pollution? Is it simple environmental degradation? And then we look at the economic good that has. And this T is often referred to as technology here, because technology makes a huge impact on the environment, can be both positive and negative. And so when we look at the environmental degradation that's occurring, and what impact a population is having, this IPAT equation is often used. So we look at the impact China has. We can use this equation. Compare it to the United States. We can use this equation to make those calculations. Okay, and that is the end of Chapter 1, the environment.